Nerd Bourbon Film and TV Addiction Hotline. Is everything okay?
Hi, thank you so much for answering. It's been such a long time since I've rewatched one of my favorite movies or TV shows, but today I relapsed.
Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of Nerd Bourbon Relapse, the podcast series where we revisit the series that we love. Todd, how are you doing?
I wanted to do the silent thing. I'm good.
Almost nodded off again. It's like I was just telling you. If you leave me for a few seconds in a silent room, and I'm about to fucking fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I just live in that constant state of tiredness. Todd, it's another show. It's even more content from the Nerd Bourbon boys.
It's I think it's a motto of ours. # more tent.
When are we gonna stop? You know what I'm saying?
Never.
When are we gonna be done with this bullshit? When are we gonna shake forth this coil and stop making shows? It's actually sickening. How many shows do we have? We have Book Club, which admittedly we haven't done in a while. We need to do a new book club.
Yeah, we were talking about that. We definitely need to do at least another episode.
Yeah, we've got Eats, we've got the main show, we've got Shots, we've now got Relapse, and then we've got the Nerd Bourbon Adventures that we just debuted. Was it 6 shows?
Mm-hmm.
In addition to all the Twitch streaming and shit.
Yeah, in addition to the Nerd Bourbon plays, basically.
Yeah, I mean it's gross, man. For 2 people, it's gross.
Yeah, it's very gross.
But do you want to kind of run us through? I mean, I kind of gave the introduction at the top, but kind of run us through the idea behind Nerd Bourbon Relapse for the folks at home.
Well, yeah, Nerd Bourbon Relapse is honestly just a simple idea, and you're the one that came up with it. You just randomly I think you messaged me on Facebook about it or some shit, or I don't even remember exactly. But basically, what Nerd Bourbon Relapse is going to be is where Seth and I basically jump into a old franchise, rewatch it, and basically watch a single movie from that franchise and do an episode of Relapse about it. And then we continue on through that franchise until we're done with that franchise, and then we will move on to another franchise. Right.
So this was a couple of things. So this is not like a super. There are other rewatch podcasts, kind of funny. Did the MCU in review and shit like that. And there's the Twin Peaks rewatch podcast, Simpsons rewatch podcast. There's other rewatch podcasts. And I've always liked the idea of doing a rewatch podcast because, as a bunch of nerds, and I know you're the same way, I'll go back and rewatch shit all the time. I once a year rewatch all the Harry Potter movies.
I basically do the same thing. I at least once a year watch Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, all that shit.
All those just great classic series that we love. And this, and it might not even, exactly be we might not stop at movies, maybe TV shows as well.
Ooh,
I mean, shit.
That'd be. I feel at that point, for the TV shows, I feel like we'd do a season,
right? Or a season or episodes or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. That'd be an interesting sort of thing.
Yeah. So it's the idea behind it is basically just getting more content out of what we already do anyway.
Yeah.
And we're gonna start off. Kind of in a theme because we've been. It's really my fault because.
Oh, I know.
I've been so deeply invested in the Star Wars stuff lately. There's been a big Star Wars through line in both my life and in the Nerd Bourbon content.
There's been an awakening.
Yeah, over the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of Star Wars shit. So yeah, in keeping with that theme. The first series that we're going to tackle for Relapse is going to be Star Wars, and we're doing this kind of. Let me give you the parameters before we get into the kind of discussion proper. The parameters are we're going to go in kind of chronological order, not in terms of release, but in terms of the films themselves. So we're starting with the original kind of prequel trilogy. Then we're going to go into Rogue One. Obviously, Solo just came out, and we don't have access to that on home video, and we just did a Shots about it. So we're not going to touch Solo, but we're going to do Rogue One, and then we're going to move into like the original trilogy, A New Hope, Empire, Jedi, and then we're going to move into the sequel trilogy. So, Force Awakens and Last Jedi. And so we're going to start off obviously at the first logical point, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which we just got done rewatching. I haven't seen this movie in fucking at least 5 years. How long has it been since you saw that movie?
I said at least a year. It's probably been about, if I had to like really think about it, probably at least probably a good 2 years.
I just don't know what it is. And and I mentioned this on the main show, like kind of the way my relationship with Star Wars was when I was a kid. Like I was definitely in that camp that like I grew up with the original trilogy and I liked the prequels as they were coming out, but then afterwards I definitely hopped on that hate train, when I was like kind of a young adult / late teens, early 20s, I definitely was like, fuck the prequels,
Everybody jumped on the hate train.
Yeah. But, so the prequels are not, I don't revisit the prequels very often. So it's actually kind of nice sitting down and watching The Phantom Menace with you, because it's been a long time and I've forgotten a lot of this shit. I mean, a lot of it I've retained, like a lot of, of course, I remember all the awesome like fights and the lightsaber duels and the, I remember all that shit. But a lot of the stuff, like a lot of it was kind of like, it was nice to see again and be like, oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. How'd you feel about it having rewatched it?
It's basically the same. It's like I forgot a lot of shit about that movie until I was like watching it again. I'm like, oh, yeah, that is a thing, isn't it?
It was just kind of us. It was a series of us like talking to each other, like, oh yeah, that's right. How did Sebulba's fucking pod racer get fucked up? I
guess we'll see. Basically, yeah.
Yeah. We're just kind of talking. It's kind of nice to just like kick back and just like not have to really devote a lot of brain power to it. I actually joked with you as we were watching. I was like, I feel like I tuned out to the actual dialogue of this so long ago.
It's like we were treating the movie like that one. What was that movie we watched? Valerian.
Yes, where you just mentally checked out of what's actually happening. You're just absorbing the visuals, basically.
Yeah.
I gotta say that's actually probably my favorite aspect of the prequels. Is the visuals.
Art direction, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like just the art of everything is really striking and very like different from the original trilogy. Like the prequels have a definite like carries like almost like a Victorian kind of Renaissance vibe.
I can definitely see that. And
to its art.
Is it wrong? I kind of feel like the movie goes over the top at some points.
Oh, like, it definitely does.
Why the fuck is there a stupid little Spider Walker hologram projector?
Right.
Like, what the shit?
Yeah, it's like who like this is a little much, right? But I mean that shit's fun though. I like that stuff. And I actually like it kind of as I think it does some things really right just as a movie too. Like that the movie actually held up way better than I expected it to. I actually enjoyed it much more than I thought I would, even though I did kind of like tune out to the actual proceedings. Like when I was in, the pod race still totally holds up.
It's actually funny is during the pod race, like we didn't talk. We were just kind of watching.
Right.
I was like, I was going to make a joke. Like we're just so enthralled by the fucking,
it's kind of captivating.
It is. It's just, I think the one thing that I did say, I'm like, I really enjoy like the POV shots of like just like the fucking like the first person. I love those shots. Those shots. There were only
a few like kind of pieces of conversation that were had. It was me reminiscing about the game on N64 that I actually really liked, Pod Racer. Yeah. Us wondering aloud about like not remembering what happened to Sebulba,
as it was about to happen, basically.
Basically, as it was about to happen. And then also us kind of sharing in our disgust for the young Rhodian lad cheering and dancing on the sidelines. Oh, man. But it was, I don't know, it's just, the movie like has some really well-paced stuff. Like that pod race has a really good like pacing to it.
Yeah.
And like I like the shots. It's got bits of humor in it, with the motherfucker who like can't get his ship to work. And yeah, I really like the I even pointed out towards the end of the movie when they're having the duel with Darth Maul on one hand, they're having the shootout with like the Separatist droids on the other hand.
The dogfight in space.
The dogfight in space. I mean,
all that shit together, like all that shit should not should not actually be working as well as it does, like pacing wise, but it does.
Well, what's cool about it, and then and of course we have the ground battle between the Gungan army and the Separatist droids, and I really liked the vibe that like all of that was happening in different places at the same time.
Yeah.
And the like kind of cuts to, okay, let's catch up with this Darth Maul fight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's get in space with Anakin and R2. And like, I was like, wow, this is actually a shockingly well-paced, a shockingly good scene. Just a good like 10 to 15 minute chunk of movie. Like that's really good, I think that really the only huge complaint that I have with the movie is Jar Jar Binks,
Of
who
course.
still sucks. I mean, like,
He
I
still
love him.
Sucks, but he's like, I'm kind of with you. Like, it's like he's so bad he's good at times, though. Because it's just like, but it's like, ugh, at the same time.
He's a total cartoon character, right? Like, he's just so, like, I understand they put Jar Jar in there to, like, appeal to the kids and have that little comic relief or whatever, but
Sometimes it's a little too much.
well, it's just goofy, like, it's not, like Star Wars has those funny moments that are almost, like, unintentionally funny. But then like there are like Jar Jar though is just a flat out goofy cartoon, like slapstick kind of humor,
definitely.
And like it was like I was telling you several times, I'm just like, by all accounts, this motherfucker should have died like 40 times already.
He should have died in the beginning.
Yeah, you should have died straight away.
One thing I do need to talk about. I talked about it during the beginning of the movie. Why the fuck is this the only Star Wars movie where force speed is a thing?
That was a good pull on your end because I actually forgot that was even in there.
I never forget. That is like, I'm telling you, it's the one thing that has stuck with me, and it's always pissed me off because I think force speed is cool, and it's the only time you see it in a movie.
Yeah, it is cool, and I mean, it would make sense to see like it would make sense to see like a Kylo Ren do that,
It's, you know why they don't do it? Because it would like make things too easy for somebody.
That might be true. I don't know. I could see like kind of those kind of the more, I guess, animalistic characters even using it in combat.
Dude, it would be awesome. It would be completely awesome. Like seeing like it would have been cool to see Darth Maul even do that shit. You only get that one scene.
That one quick scene in that like hallway.
And it's just like, if honestly, if they just ran away. No, that's force speed. They went whoop.
Yeah. And they're literally on the other side of the hallway in like a split second. Yeah. It's cool. Yeah, you're right. I completely forgot that was, you called it before it happened.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, right, that is in this movie."
That's the only, it's one of the main things that I always remember from the Phantom Menace, because it's just like it always has annoyed me that it's never happened in the others.
Can we talk about the title for a second? Because like, the Phantom Menace is a weird title. Like,
I don't understand why is it called the Phantom Menace?
Well, it's called the Phantom Menace for a few things, right? Because like, there's a lot of mystery surrounding it.
Is that kind of like, it was kind of like a hidden sort of bullshit going on? Is that like kind of what they're going for?
Well, the movie is kind of split into two equal halves, where it's like following the story of of like kind of the discovery of Anakin and the tutelage between Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan Kenobi and shit like that. It's kind of split between that and then the shit that's going on the political side with, kind of Palpatine kind of coming into power. And I think that is the Phantom Menace, right? Like that is, you can take it in two parts. Either you can see it as he is the Phantom Menace, because as you said, while we were watching it, he's playing every motherfucker in there.
Oh yeah, it's like we already know what happened. The thing is, we kind of know what happens from the get-go, sort of thing.
Right.
Like that's the whole point of the prequels. It's like we kind of know where this ends up.
We know where we're going, you know, and he is that kind of like that underlying menace that nobody suspects, right?
Yeah, because he's playing the long game, and shit, you even see him there, like He just is like his dick's getting hard basically when he's like, it's like.
It's like they will elect a new chancellor, one with a huge cock, and his name rhymes with Schmalschmashmeen. Yeah, and so I think you could take it like that, but you could also take it as the fact that there's all this hope in taking in Anakin and stuff, and really we know that he ends up becoming Vader, right? So
that is definitely the fucking like writer in you right there.
Right.
Like, that is like you're like an English teacher, like just sitting there like going a little too deep, and I respect it.
Maybe, but I think that's also the Phantom Menace, right? That's
like why did they choose blue as the color? It's like type of bullshit.
God, do you want to know some real shit though? There was one time where I played some, like, I was being stupid, and Dan, I made a joke about how I can just like hyperanalyze anything.
Mm-hmm.
And Dan was like, "All right, prove it." And we were watching a cutscene in GTA 4, and it's when Nico like goes to meet, I think, Vlad in a bar, and he orders a glass of water, right? Nico comes in, a glass of water, and like the bartender's like, "Glass of water coming right up," and then Nico ends up leaving the bar before getting the glass of water, and I was like, water represents life, Dan, and Nico, he wanted that change of life, that new lease on life, and he never got that glass of water, did he?
Shut the fuck up. That's terrible.
Yeah, I can get real bad if I wanted to, but no, seriously, I really do think that there is a duality in that title, as weird as it is.
No, I agree with that. Like that's a good like point, and it's a good theory about the title.
Weirdly, it's kind of like one of my favorite Star Wars titles if you think about it, because the rest of them are very like on the nose. The second one is literally just called Attack of the Clones, and like that's exactly what it is. It's a bunch of clones attacking.
I'm really not looking forward to watching that one.
I actually am looking forward to watching it, because even though we all know it's like the worst one, I think it's widely regarded to be the worst one in the series, depending on who you ask. Some people might call that The Last Jedi.
Ooh.
I'm very, very much looking forward to revisiting that, because at least we can shit on it for a few minutes, even if it's bad.
I think we'll be shitting on it while we're watching.
Can we talk about? Can we just talk about the fact that these prequels, right? Something that I pointed out that actually sort of annoys me about the current sequel trilogy is
the fact of like how many aliens are in this movie.
Right. I really like how many of those classic races we see in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we see Rhodians and Twi'leks and stuff like that. We also just see these weird creatures that we don't see so much of in the sequel trilogy. And I understand, you don't want to... The sequel trilogy really feels really, like, I guess, story heavy. And
story heavy and a little more closed off from, like...
A little more intimate, a little more character focused, So I'm a little bit like... But part of me is still, I'm like... They should show up... These weird races should show up more than just in a cantina or...
Yeah.
In Maz Kanata's castle.
Like when I called off, it would be like when I said it was like basically the only time you see other races are like in the like the casino in Last Jedi.
Right, Canto Bite and stuff like that. Just like, I don't know, man. I just want more. I want to see more of these kind of classic kind of alien races pop up. And it was cool to get that little bit of expository dialogue from Anakin when they have that run-in with Sebulba. And there's that bit of expository dialogue where Anakin's like, "That's a Doug, and Dougs are blah 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 blah," And can we talk just for a brief moment about and I don't want to like be mean or anything like that, but the acting on Anakin's mom.
Yeah, we were talking about it like while we were watching, like, and you said probably the most perfect thing. It's like you're getting a little bit of a Tommy Wiseau sort of vibe or some shit. I was like, yeah.
It was pretty bad. She's just like, Anakin, I love you. Do not go.
It's funny. It's like as you said it, I'm just remembering like shit from Attack of the Clones that we haven't even watched yet. It's just like, or it's like she's like, Annie,
right?
My Annie,
dying in like his arms or whatever.
It's like, oh Lord.
Yeah, there's some bad well, and there's just some bad dialogue in the series in general. in these prequels, just in general. But we also talked about like how weird it is seeing, even though she's only like what 4 or 5 years older than Anakin, seeing like Natalie Portman's kind of Padme and like how young Anakin is in comparison.
Yeah, because it's like we looked it up because I was sitting there on my phone. It was just like, so he's technically 9, turns 10 during the movie, I guess, and she's 14.
Right, which isn't a huge age gap, but it is weird. Like the differential between a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old doesn't seem like it's only 5 years.
See, it becomes less weird when they're adults. You know,
well, yeah,
if
you were to see like a 21-year-old dating a 26-year-old, you're like, no big deal, right?
Yeah.
But when you're looking at a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old, it's a little weird, you know? I don't know, there's something weird about that, knowing that they like end up together and stuff like that. I don't know.
But you even made a joke when she's like, when she was leaving. I was happy to meet you or whatever. You're like, we're gonna fuck.
We're gonna fuck one day. yeah, you know.
Oh, yeah, I was talking about this. Like, it was really cool, like watching the movies, like especially the Darth Maul fight, for one reason. Like, it's cool seeing like the shit that ends up happening, not in the movies, but in like the animated stuff, and later on in like the third movie,
right?
Of like how everything that he kind of learned is like the whole like high ground shit with Anakin and all that.
Sure.
The main reason I feel like he was able to even pull that shit off is because what he like he knows how to deal with it technically, because he technically did it but survived.
Well, it's that Jedi survival instinct kicked in that moment, right? And he tapped into that, you know.
Yeah.
And because of that, he now has that sort of like strategy in his arsenal, right?
Yep.
Yeah, really cool bits of foreshadowing there.
I think I was the one telling you like about like watching the whole thing with Qui-Gon, like with his death. Like somebody, like I was watching a tribute video and they did like a really, really good cut of a transition between that scene and the scene in Rebels.
Right.
And it was
I gotta shout out Ray Park's performance as Maul.
Oh, yeah.
Maul's always been cool, right? But like his performance in this one, really just impressive, because like I think back to that scene where we both were like, so cool how he's just like a caged animal.
Yeah, because it's like, it's so interesting. Like you're watching Qui-Gon and he's just sitting there patiently waiting. Fucking Maul is just sitting there pacing, like ready to fucking go.
Pacing, like, basically salivating like a lion in a cage, like just pacing back and forth, like I'm ready to kill this motherfucker, you know? Mm-hmm. Like he really, and even when he's got Obi-Wan hanging in the pit and he's just kind of slashing at the ground.
Yeah, just kind of sitting there like, he's like, it's like playing with his fucking food type shit.
Yeah, he's just so badass, you know? Like he's just a really cool dude, like just a cool character, cool guy to watch, and you gotta shout out Ray Park's performance on that one.
Definitely.
And you gotta respect that. He did a lot with a little. Darth Maul hardly speaks at all in the film.
That's the beauty of that's actually the beauty of it. Like after this movie, everybody's like, I want more Maul. Like what the fuck?
Right. And yeah, man, and you know, Qui-Gon's always been cool. It's nice to revisit this movie and get more, you know, kind of get back in touch with the Qui-Gon lover in me, you know, and see more Qui-Gon.
Like Liam Neeson in Qui-Gon is like, that's the best. So one of the best parts of Phantom Menace.
Yeah,
like he's good. He's
great
so good.
Actor, great character. We were talking about like how cool it'd be if they wind up, you know, moving forward with this Kenobi thing. If they bring back Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon in, you know, Force Ghost form.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
And I think it would make a lot of sense. I mean, not as like a major character, but as a cameo. I mean, that would be a really great scene to see. Because, you know, we were talking about how, you know, I guess spoilers if you haven't seen The Last Jedi, but how Yoda pops up as a Force Ghost to Luke, kind of his master. You know, it would only make sense that Obi-Wan's master would appear to him as a Force Ghost probably several times, you know?
And I feel like that would be so important, because it's like that's like the thing they never really explore in my eyes, is like, how does Obi-Wan feel? Like, just like being on Tatooine.
Right.
Like just he is like one of the last Jedi. You know, it's just like what. Like,
Well,
what's
and
going through his mind?
think about the synergy between him and what ends up happening with Luke in The Last Jedi.
Exactly.
I mean, think about the parallels there. We know what brought Luke to that point. We don't know what brought Obi-Wan to that point. Right? I mean, we kind of do. Like, we kind of know that it was because of him being essentially directly involved with the creation of Darth Vader. But, like, we don't know. We know the A and the Z. We don't know all the letters in between.
And
you know?
that's why I want a Kenobi film. That's exactly why I want a Kenobi film.
I think it only makes sense. I think the fruit is hanging ripe on the vine for a Kenobi movie.
Yeah.
Really. And you know, Ewan McGregor wants to do it. You know, I really think that there's a lot of potential there, and it's nice kind of revisiting this movie, and kind of falling back in love with these characters that really got to shine their light in the prequels. Characters like Qui-Gon and Darth Maul and Obi-Wan.
Actually, it just came to me right now. Maul is basically the Boba Fett of the prequels.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like,
yeah,
because he's like, there wasn't a lot of Boba, but everybody fell in love with Boba.
And honestly, he does more than Boba does in the
exactly
in the original trilogy.
So that's crazy when you think about it. Like Boba really didn't do that much, but everybody fell in love.
No, he's just because he's just badass. That is the single that Ralph McQuarrie Boba Fett design is the single greatest design of anything of any character, I would argue, in cinematic history.
Yeah,
like. You fall in love with that character just by looking at him. Like, just by the way he looks, you get that he is a badass, right? You don't know anything about him, but you know you love him and you want more of him. You know? And Darth Maul's similar. We know a little bit more about Darth Maul. Honestly, even in this movie, even in Phantom Menace, like, they kind of touch on, there at the end, Yoda kind of touches on the Sith rule of two, right? Where it's always the master and the apprentice, right? In terms of the Sith Lords, and so I mean, we kind of know, like we kind of know that he was Darth Sidious's apprentice, and that alone gave him a little more texture, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. I don't know how much more I have to say.
Here's my thing. I think there's gonna always be a little bit of rambling with Relapse. Because it's very much a free-form sort of show. Yeah. And it's just two jackasses having conversations.
Yeah, and it's just it's a good time though. It's nice to revisit these movies. These are I'm looking forward to watching more of the prequels. The other movies are kind of more fresh in my mind, but it is going to be nice. The real thing is,
like, how do we want to schedule this? Do we want to have this as a scheduled sort of thing?
I don't think it's going to be scheduled, because just the way our schedules work, they don't always align. Yeah. I mean, if we could do it once a week, I'd love to. I don't know.
But I say we can at least say you'll at least get a episode of Relapse a month.
Oh, easy.
Basically.
Easy. Yeah. At the very least, you'll get at least one a month. I imagine, though, that you'll probably get, especially with Star Wars, like, it's really just a matter of us carving out a few hours to sit there and watch and then record the episode. But, yeah, no, we, this is something we're going to continuously do. There is no shortage of series for us to relapse on. Mm-hmm. Anything else you want to add before we wrap it up?
Nah.
All right. I guess that's it for us then. We will catch you guys next time when we come back for episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Bye.
See ya.